Getting some tag team help in her brawl with Donald Trump. Senator and fellow Democrat Elizabeth Warren slamming Trump for his comments a decade ago about predictions of a forthcoming housing market crash. Here he was in an audiobook produced for Trump University.
I sort of hope that happens, because then people like me would go in and buy. You know, if you're in a good cash position, which I'm in a good cash position today, then people like me would go in and buy like crazy. If there is a bubble burst, as they call it, you know, you can make a lot of money.
Well, Warren is accusing him of cashing in on the housing crisis. Here's what she said.
Donald Trump was drooling over the idea of a housing meltdown because it meant he could buy up more property on the cheap. What kind of a man does that? I'll tell you exactly what kind of a man does that. It is a man who cares about no one but himself. A small, insecure money grubber who doesn't care who gets hurt so long as he makes a profit off it. What kind of a man does that? A man who will never be president of the United States.
And Trump fired back. Listen to this. He had a Pocahontas comparison with Warren. Take a look.
Oh, Hillary Clinton has somebody. Did you ever hear Pocahontas? Huh? It's Pocahontas, Elizabeth Warren. She was going out. She is probably the senator that's doing just about the least in the United States Senate. She's a total failure. She said she was an Indian. She said because her cheekbones were high, she was an Indian, that she was Native American. And, you know, we have these surrogates, people like her, total failures.
Well, let's talk about this now with Austin Goolsbee. He's a Hillary Clinton supporter and economic advisor to the candidate. And Barry Bennett, he's the senior advisor for the Trump campaign. He's also the former campaign manager for Dr. Ben Carson. I do want to talk about what Elizabeth Warren said in a moment. But Barry, this comment, this response from Donald Trump where he references Pocahontas, it's very offensive to Native Americans. Can you defend him saying that?
Well, I mean, it was Elizabeth Warren who pretended to be a Native American, not Donald Trump. That's what I was pointing to. But, you know, let me answer the senator's question. What kind of man
the word
takes advantage of the housing crisis?
Way.
Well, it was a man who follows Elizabeth Warren's lead. Elizabeth Warren flipped 5 houses, some of which were bought at foreclosure, from people who couldn't afford to pay, and she profited from it. And, I mean, she did it. And now she wants to blame Donald Trump for talking about it. But she did it. She put money in her own from people's misfortune.
Austin, what do you say to that?
Look, that's totally outrageous. I am personal friends with Elizabeth Warren and have been for many years. You heard on the tape Donald Trump, not just as if he were cheering, literally cheering, saying, I hope there is a housing collapse. Now, he didn't know when he said that there would be as big a housing collapse as happened, so fine, we'll give him that. But this move is just so classic Donald Trump. When he does something wrong, immoral, subject to criticism, just try to change the subject, just personally insult whoever it is that said it about you. And I don't fault him. If I had said the things that he had said, I wouldn't want to be talking about those things either. I just think it's outrageous to try to personally go after Elizabeth Warren.
Well, Barry, can you readdress what you didn't answer, which is the use of the phrase Pocahontas or the word Pocahontas in a pejorative way? Is that defensible?
Well, he's just pointing out that she fraudulently claimed to be a Native American in order to advantage herself.
Well, he's using a pejorative term to do that. Is that appropriate for a candidate for president?
He's obviously using a pejorative term, and he's totally trying to change the subject. Elizabeth Warren leveled a pretty serious charge, a content charge, at Donald Trump that he had cheered on the housing crisis.
Let me respond to that charge on the housing crisis.
Start into her with his Native American bit.
I'm happy to respond to that charge on the housing crisis. Elizabeth Warren lined her pockets by buying houses that people couldn't afford to pay the mortgages on and flipped them for money.
Okay, we're going to fact check that. I'm going to say this. We're going to fact check that going forward. We've heard you say that, Barry.
Okay.
I do want to ask you, Austin, though. Hillary Clinton, her strategy right now is to paint Donald Trump as someone who profited from the financial crisis. But you have her husband having signed this bill into law that deregulated Wall Street in a way that very clearly helped cause the 2008 crisis. Does she really have a leg to stand on here?
Well, I think she has a leg to. I would make a distinction. Many things went wrong with the deregulation of Wall Street. There's no question about that. And even former President Clinton himself has identified that he would not do it the same way. But that does not, in my view, create the housing bubble, because the housing bubble comes sometime after that, and there were a lot of actions made by the Bush administration to allow excessive leverage. He signed this
bill into law that allowed credit default swaps to not be regulated, derivatives, and so essentially these things were in a bit of a black box to Wall Street regulators. This is something that even by his own admission, Bill Clinton has said
Hillary
this was
Clinton
regrettable.
Who did that. Yeah, but
no, certainly it was her husband.
It was not Hillary Clinton who did that. I think it's kind of outrageous to suggest that everything that Bill Clinton did, including things that he later said, I wish it hadn't gone that way, that you're going to pin to Hillary Clinton. I just think that's not appropriate.
Okay, so we hear you on that, certainly. Barry, I do want to ask you about something that Trump said when he was in New Mexico last night. This is about New Mexico Governor Governor Martinez. She is a Republican. Here's what he said.
Since 2000, the number of people on food stamps in New Mexico has tripled. We have to get your governor to get going. She's got to do a better job, okay? Your governor has got to do a better job. She's not doing the job. Hey, maybe I'll run for governor of New Mexico. I'll get this place going.
Okay, ouch, if you are the governor of New Mexico here, Barry. But I want to know what you think about this strategy, or if there is a strategy, because he is going after not only a member of his own party, but this is a woman. This is a Hispanic woman. These are two demographics that he really needs to make some inroads with. And this doesn't exactly do this. Why is he doing this?
Well, I mean, she's been going after him now for a couple of months. So, you know, they don't support each other. We've all known that. But, you know, I mean, he comes to her state and she refuses to meet with him. And, you know, that's fine. She can do whatever she'd like in the general election. But, you know, he's got plenty of support in New Mexico. He's going to win New Mexico.
Okay.
But, I mean, were you of the impression that he cared if women or Hispanics or other minorities were upset at him? I mean, he said a series of unbelievably outrageous things about all of those groups.
Really? What?
Austin, what specifically are you referring to?
He said Mexicans were rapists and murderers.
He said this yesterday in New Mexico?
He has said that Mexican immigrants to the United States were rapists and murderers. He's criticized
some were.
Women.
And guess what? It happens to be factually correct. Some were.
He did say yesterday, referring to some of these protesters, Barry, outside of the event, that they were thugs, that they're carrying the Mexican flag, and that some of them are criminals. And it sort of harkens back to some of those comments. I guess I would ask you, now that he's pivoting towards the general, is he really, how is he making inroads with these very important groups that the Republican presidential candidate needs to attract at least some support from?
You know, it's not political discourse to throw rocks and bottles at police doing their duty. It's not political discourse to rush a fence or shoot out a door. I mean, that's thuggery, and that's what happened yesterday.
Real quick to you, Austin. I do want to ask you.
I agree with.
Austin, I got to get this in. We only have a minute, and I want to ask